Greetings to you and welcome to this episode of Grace Podcast. I'm Timothy Muse. I'll be your host as we spend this time together today. It's a joy to be with you. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for making this podcast a part of your journey. I want to thank you for making this podcast a part of your life. I'm really honored and pleased to be able to be with you today as you walk through this journey, as you continue to look into yourself and find those places where you want to grow and learn and expand. This is such important work, but work that most people are not willing to do. But you're here doing it, so thank you for that. Thank you for being part of this work, this movement to better ourselves. When we invest in ourselves, it's the biggest investment we can make. You know, a lot of people around us talk about money or what have you, or real estate. Those are big investments, but when we invest in ourselves, that is the biggest investment we can make. One, because it's an investment that goes out for decades, but the other is we're always with ourselves. So the best we can be, the better we are when we're with ourselves, and the better we can affect others. So good for you for being here. Good for you for making this a part of your journey. And thank you for allowing me to come alongside you. If this episode is helpful, if this podcast is helpful, please share it out there. Put it out there on your social media feeds. I post on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and Instagram. If you follow me or the life coaching on any one of those feeds, you're going to see these episodes. If you're on one of the listening platforms, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Amazon Music, follow us, give us a rating and review. As always, rating and reviews help the platforms know that people are listening. And if you want to reach out to me directly, I would love to hear from you. GraceLifeCoaching.com is the website. GraceLifeCoaching.com, all one word, all lowercase. If you want to do some coaching, if you have some questions, if you just want to have a conversation to try to get some clarity about where you are, about what's going on. You know, sometimes clarity is a really powerful thing. Sometimes we just need to sit and talk with someone a little bit and get a little bit of clarity about what's happening and about where we are in life. So if you want to do that, GraceLifeCoaching.com is the website. I would truly love to hear from you, and I would love to do what I can to help you out. So I want to move forward with this vision of this process of what the season around us can teach us. You know, and the past couple of days, it's been a lot warmer here where I'm recording at. And there's been a big snowpack for a long time. And the snow's starting to melt and the ground is starting to be revealed. And the thing about the snow is it covers up all of the stuff that needs to be done. But as the snow melts, as winter moves towards early spring, we start to see the places that need to be cleaned up. You know, what was left from the fall, what has been brought down in the winter time. Now, when we get ready for spring and new growth and new possibility, we need to clean up the ground and clean up the space. And that's really where I want to go, clearing out the old soil, letting go to make room for new growth. And when we look at the world around us and what we need to do outside, a lot of it is what we need to do inside. This is a really important episode in this series that I'm doing, because before anything new can take root in your life, before any new fresh opportunities, deeper relationships, new habits, or new confidences can come forward, there's a moment where we must clean the ground of what no longer serves us. There's a moment that we have to get rid of the old before the new can come in. Just like a gardener removes old roots and dead leaves and rocks and hardened soil before planting, you must remove the emotional, mental, and behavioral clutter that blocks your growth. So that's where I want to go today. I want to talk about what that old soil looks like and why letting go is difficult, and creating new space, and maybe some practical steps that you can do to help clear out some of that old soil. So let's move the metaphor into reality, in our everyday experience. You know, we know what it means to clean out a garden, or clean out a rose bush bed, or clean out the beds around the house. But let's talk about what we need to clean out inside of us. What do you think old soil? What do you think it looks like? Think of anything in your life that takes up space but no longer nourishes you. That would be old soil. That would be old stuff. What is it in your life that is in your life but no longer nourishes you? It might look like an old belief or an old identity, an old story that you tell yourself. You know, we've talked many times about the importance of that internal narrative, and that narrative runs on old stories. How about that habits that drain you? We all have them, things that just drain us. Or a relationship that no longer aligns. You know, relationships have seasons. Some relationships last a lifetime, but some relationships just have a season. How about a pressure you still feel obligated to uphold that just is no longer beneficial to you or your system? Or a fear that you've carried for years, a fear that holds you back, or a dream you've outgrown. You know, we all have those dreams. Write the great American novel. Well, I mean, some people can write the great American novel, but not everybody. Or a routine that keeps you stagnant. Emotional clutter from past seasons. These are the old soil that still reside inside of us. These are the things that we want to clear out in order to make space for new growth. It's really important. These aren't inherently bad. See, and here's the thing. I don't want us to be like, oh, yeah, I mean, I used to do that and I'm just bad. No, they were part of your journey. They served a purpose at the time, but now they take up space that new growth needs. Okay, these are behaviors or beliefs or identities that served a purpose at a time, but they had a season, but the season is done. You cannot plant a new life in soil that's compacted, cluttered, and full of old roots. Before something new can thrive, something old must be released. And that's what I'm talking about when I say clearing out that old soil. What are the things inside of you that need to be released, that need to be cleared out? Again, and we don't need to put judgment on them. We don't need to put any kind of emotional weight on them. We don't need to say that they were good or bad. We just need to say that these are things that aren't serving us anymore, that are not nourishing the life that we are looking to move forward with. And so we let them go. Now, this isn't easy work. It really isn't. It's because that's how our brains work. It's not because we're weak or unprepared. It's because of how our brains work. Our brains prefer the familiar, even when the familiar is unhealthy. Look, the brain doesn't ask, is this good for me? No. The brain asks, is this predictable? The brain is wired for protection and projection, and predictability is what enhances protection and projection. All right, so predictability is what the brain yearns for. The brain yearns to be extraordinarily efficient. And so its efficiency, even though it is the organism that takes up the most energy on a daily basis, it works on predictability and efficiency. So it creates thought patterns and behaviors. They're called neurotransmitters and neural pathways. And so the brain desires predictability. Old habits are predictable. Old fears are predictable. Old stories are predictable. Old relationships, yes, even the ones that can drain us, are predictable. Our brain likes patterns, but growth requires breaking patterns. That's why letting go feels so scary, even when you know it's right. That's why creating new patterns is so exhausting, even when you know that that's the direction that you want to go. You know that you should eat celery sticks in the evening rather than potato chips, but potato chips are so predictable. So the brain just goes right to that predictability. There's uncertainty on the other side, and uncertainty always feels threatening at first. Remember that projection and protection? Well, here's uncertainty. I don't want uncertainty, so I'm going to keep doing what I know will be okay, even if it is unhealthy or bad for me. But the truth is this. The truth is this. This is what we hold on to. This is how we let the brain work through this. Letting go is not losing. Letting go is choosing. Letting go is creating space for what your future needs. Is it going to be clumsy at first? Is it going to be hard at first? Yes, it will, because your brain is just yearning for that old pattern, those old things, that predictability. And we have to retrain the brain to predict new things. This is where discipline comes in. This is where continuation comes in. This is why it's so important. And look, carrying the weight of old soil affects our emotional lives as well as it does our physiological lives. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack all day. You might get used to the weight, you do, but it's still exhausting. And that is what old soil does emotionally. It is emotional weight. Weight that just drags us down. But again, when we live in that predictability, we just live in that predictable dragging down. Emotional weight and old soil is energy drain at the subconscious level, at the deeper level. It makes you tired. It lowers your confidence. It increases worry. It limits your choices. It slows your growth. It steals your clarity. It keeps your life crowded with old patterns. Many people want to say, I just feel stuck. Have you ever felt that way? I just feel stuck. Well, is it that you're stuck, or is it that you're just full of old patterns, full of old things? Oftentimes, people who feel stuck aren't stuck. They're just simply full. There's no room for new direction. There's no room for new opportunity because they're full of those old patterns. Letting go is how you reclaim space. Cleaning out is how you reclaim space. Donating those old patterns and those old stories and those old fears is how you clean out and create space. See, when you let go of something familiar, an old mindset, an old commitment, an old relationship, even if it isn't good for you, yes, your brain experiences loss. It does. That's one of the reasons why it's so hard to let go, because we experience loss. This is called identity shedding. All right? Identity shedding. Your identity, the you've been for years, starts to shift. And that's why people feel fear, sadness, or uncertainty when letting go. It's called identity shedding. Letting go of things, and there's a loss to it, a grief to it. But here's the powerful part. Identity shedding is the doorway to identity expansion. When we let go of who we were, we make room for who we're becoming. Think about it. Every version of you that grew, evolved, or stepped up has to release a previous version of yourself. Letting go isn't losing yourself. It's discovering the next step in yourself. But that's hard, and it takes energy, and it takes work, and it takes commitment. And sometimes it takes clumsy redirections and resets, but it's necessary. If we don't let go of old versions of ourselves, we just live into those old versions. If we don't let go of old thought patterns, if we don't shed those parts of our identity, we don't have the capability of something new to come forward. I think of a snake, and a snake sheds its skin. Well, it doesn't shed its skin because the old skin was bad. It's just the old skin was no longer useful. The snake grew, the skin didn't. The skin needs to go away so new skin can come forward. It's called shedding. They shed their skin. Pets, dogs, they shed their fur. When they don't need it, they shed it. It goes away. It's not emotional. There's no emotional connection to it. They just do it because they know that they need to get rid of it in order for new growth to happen. All right. So emotional shedding, identity shedding is so important because identity shedding is the doorway to identity expansion. Because if we don't shed, then when old soil remains, if we don't shed that stuff, then, you're holding on to everything. And when the old soil remains, then new opportunities feel overwhelming and old emotions keep resurfacing. You're attracted to the same patterns repeatedly. This is what happens when identity shedding doesn't happen. Change becomes harder. Clarity becomes clouded. Progress feels exhausting. And life feels heavier than it should. This is why many people work incredibly hard but feel like they're not moving forward because they're not shedding that old story. They're trying to plant new goals in old soil. They're trying to keep the old soil while plant new things, and the soil simply can't support the growth. You can't support new growth when you're living in old stories. You can't support new growth when you're doing it in old soil. The issue isn't the dream or the goal or the vision or the hope. The issue is the ground. And that's where the work needs to happen. And part of that work comes from a mindset shift. It comes from a mindset shift. It comes from a choice. No one's forcing you to do this. No one's forcing you to clear out the old ground. It is a choice. And in that choice, we have to speak that choice into being. I release what no longer serves me so I can receive what is meant for me. Big affirmation statement. I release what no longer serves me so I can receive what is meant for me. Releasing is receiving. When we see release as loss, when we see letting go just as loss, we don't want to experience loss. But when we can reframe it, when we can change our mindset from letting go is a loss to letting go is opening up the opportunity of receiving something new. Letting go is opening up. Clearing the soil is welcoming new life. When we think about the physical practice of it, when we hold on, we close our hands, right? We have to close our hands in order to hold on to something. But if we're holding on to something, we don't have any room to grab something new. And if we want to grab something new, first we have to open our hands. And when we open our hands, we release what we're holding on to. It's a really practical vision. So I would encourage you, when you're thinking about those old patterns, those old things, think about it very physically. What am I holding on to? What am I holding on to in my life that I just need to let go? If I want to grab a new goal, I need to let go of the old one. If I want to grab a new thought pattern or a new behavior structure, I need to let go of the old one. but not in a loss or not in a detriment, but a realization that releasing is receiving, that I'm letting go of the old so I can grab onto the new. This is a shift that changes everything. It really does. Because when we start to realize that we're allowed to let go of those old things, we're allowed to. Alan Watts, a great quote from Alan Watts, he says, you are not required to be who you were 5 minutes ago. We are allowed to let go of old behaviors, old beliefs, even if they served us, but they no longer serve us now. So I want to raise up a couple of types of old soil for you to look at. I have 4 types of old soil that I want to lay out that most people carry. These are the things that most people carry. Maybe there's more, but this is kind of a general 4 types of old soil, and maybe you're going to find yourself falling into one of these types or multiple types. The first one is old thoughts. Beliefs that we hold on to. Beliefs like I'm not ready, or I never follow through, or I don't deserve more, or I'm too late, or I always mess things up. Have you ever thought that about yourself? I mean, has that, those are stagnant thoughts. Those are things that are going to limit you. Those are beliefs that shape your future without your permission. Okay? Those thoughts, I'm not ready. Well, you're never going to be ready. Ready is not a thing. Now is ready. And following through. Maybe there are things you didn't follow through because they weren't meant for you, or they didn't serve you. I don't deserve more. Well, yeah, you do. I mean, it's not really a deserve thing, and you're never too late. If you have breath in your lungs and you have an idea, you're never too late. All right? Old habits. Habits that once soothed you but now sabotage you, like overthinking or procrastinating or overcommitting, or people-pleasing, or avoiding discomfort, or staying in survival mode. These habits may have served you in that moment. They may have served you through a season, but now you're in a new season. And letting go of those old habits, reshaping them. Old relationships or roles. We all have a role in life, and we all have relationships in life. Connections that drain you, or identities that you still perform that make no sense anymore. Like being the fixer, or being the strong one, or being the quiet one, or being the responsible one, or being the one who never says no. Again, they may have worked in a structure at a time. They may have served you in a time, but they don't serve you anymore. They don't serve who you want to be. They don't serve who you're becoming. And that's old soil. And you're not going to find new growth in getting this personal expansion if you're just a people pleaser, or you're always saying no, or you're always saying yes. You're never saying no. They won't serve you if you're moving forward. If you want to invest in yourself, if you want to create boundaries and grow and expand as a person, then no is a really, really important word. And I've said this before many times. No is a complete sentence. You don't need to explain. You don't need to give justification. No. And old expectations. That's the last one I want to raise up. Old expectation. The pressure to fit a life you no longer want. Okay? Old expectations. Who you thought you'd be. Well, that's an expectation. What others expect from you. We have expectations from others. Timelines, milestones, perfectionism. These are all old expectations. Trying to make everybody comfortable. Yeah, that's an expectation too. Old expectations that don't feed us anymore. These 4 make the soil of your life crowded and compact. And there might be others, but there's just these are kind of the 4 main ones, and you probably can find yourself plugging into or identifying somewhere something. But cleaning them creates oxygen. Cleaning them creates space and possibility. When we can let go of some of this old soil, we can open ourselves to new soil and new possibilities. But it means we need to confront them and work through them. We need to confront that old soil. Again, and getting out of that predictability that the brain says no. Someone asks you, hey, do you have time tomorrow to help me move a couch? And in your schedule it's full, and if you say no, your brain's like, no, they're gonna be mad, they're never gonna talk to you again. Predictability. So you say, yeah, I can squeeze that in and make your life far more difficult, rather than say, no, I'm sorry, I don't have that time tomorrow. Old patterns, old expectations, old relationships, old habits, old belief structures, old thoughts, all those things, when we start to clear them out and make room for the new, it is where we grow and expand. It is where we become more, which is what we really want to do. So here's what I would encourage you to do in this. Here's what I would encourage you to do as you're living in this season, as you're in this emotional weight and you're in this wintering. Here's what I would encourage you to do. I would each day, I would say take one thing that you're ready to release. One thing, just one. So, I don't want you to like take that whole list and go, I'm ready to release all of that today. No, just one thing, one thing. It might be a belief or a fear or a habit, or a relationship dynamic, or a pressure, or a commitment, an identity, a guilt, an old dream, a self-criticism. Each day, take one thing that you want to release. Maybe jot it down in your journal, or write it down on a piece of paper. Write it down on a sticky note and put it up on the mirror. Okay, every day. You write it on a sticky note, put it on the mirror in the bathroom. So when you're brushing your teeth and getting ready to go for the day, this is the one thing I'm going to release. I'm going to release a fear. I'm going to release a fear of what happens if I say no. And I'm going to try to say no. Or I'm going to release a habit. And then each day, put a new sticky note up and see how many things need to be released in you and see what you can do. You're clearing out that old soil. And it takes time. The rocks and the roots and the leaves and the old dead weeds, all that takes time, but it is worth it. When we clear out the old soil, we make room for new growth. And new growth isn't going to happen in old soil, my friends. Old soil root bounds us. We get root bound in our emotions and our behaviors and our patterns. But when we can yank some of that out and clear out the soil, it opens up new growth. It opens up new possibilities. And that's really where we want to go, right? That's really who we want to become. We want to become this new growth opportunity, but we need to clear out the old soil before we do it. So this is a practical way to be able to do it. And look, it's not glamorous work. It really isn't. There's nothing glamorous about being on your hands and knees in cold dirt, yanking out old roots and leaves. It's dirty and it's messy, but you can't step into a new season carrying the weight of the old one. You can't expect new growth to come forward vibrantly while the old soil is still crowded with what was. You can't grow while holding on to what shrinks you. Spring is coming, and this is a good time to think about spring in your life. Your life is preparing to be exceptional. And in order to do that, we do have to start cleaning out some of that old soil. I hope this is helpful for you. This is what I have for you today. If it is, please share it out there. Put it out there on your social media feeds. Follow us on the listening platforms. If you want to reach out to me directly, as always, GraceLifeCoaching.com is a website. If you want to dig into this a little bit, if there is some old soil that you're not sure how to work with or how to get rid of, but you want to dig into it, I would love to help you. I really would. GraceLifeCoaching.com is a website. As always, at Grace Life Coaching, we want you to be the best you.